everyone and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to do a book haul. I've got about 18 books to talk about, I think. So it's a mix of print books, audiobooks and ebooks, some of which I've gotten from NetGalley in exchange for a review. So I will let you know which ones they are when they come up. The first one I'm going to do is the only book I have in print. I mentioned in a previous video that I don't actually buy a lot of books in print anymore just because they're expensive and it adds up. When you read books as fast as I do, it's a hefty habit to be keeping up with. So I tend to just buy books I'm really excited about in print. So if it's like an author I really like, one I've been collecting for a few years, and then when they do the horrible injustice of changing the look of the spines, it makes me sad because they don't all match anymore. But anyway, the majority of books that I get are ebooks these days, just for cost and convenience, as I suppose most people would be. But I have bought one book in print recently, and this is one of Tillie Cole's latest releases. So Tillie Cole is one of my favourite authors. She does kind of romance, but from like a cutesy, heartwarming, wholesome kind of way to a comedy kind of way and a darker kind of way. So I actually read one of her most recent release, Lord of London Town. That was the one that just came out 2-3 weeks ago, I think. And I'll pop my reading vlog for that one up in the cards there if you want to have a look. That's more of her darker kind of material. But the one I bought that I'm going to show you today is this one. This is Thoroughly Wit, described as basically a romantic comedy. And yeah, so as you can see from the cover, we have the main character here holding a whip. So basically the main character is called Faith, and basically she is a sex advice columnist, and she has to do a feature basically on the seductive ongoings of Manhattan's elite. I believe she might be visiting certain clubs, shall we say, and kind of seeing what kind of sexy times they get up to. I don't know. We'll see. It's probably going to be kind of, you know, fetishy BDSM kind of stuff. So yeah, I think this has the material for being incredibly funny. Another thing another thing it says is things are all great in her life, basically, until, I'm assuming this is an ex from her past, or a guy she knows from her past, whatever. He's now her boss, and she describes him as crashing back into her life like a bad case of herpes. Which, yeah, that was what sold me. I mean, if I wasn't sold just on the fact that Tillie Cole wrote it, hands down, that's pretty much all I needed. But that statement, I just feel like this is going to be my kind of humour, and I'm really excited to pick this up. So I imagine it will be, I'll probably pick this up in November sometime, so it'll be in my TBR, I imagine. So moving swiftly on to the audiobooks that I've purchased recently. The first one is a recommendation from a friend, one of the few friends I have that actually reads, but this one's called The Worry Cure. So I'm quite into reading books about kind of mental health and anxiety and all those kind of things, and a book that she's recently read is this one, The Worry Cure. 7 steps to stop worry stopping you. Why was that so hard to say? This is by Robert L. Leahy. And basically it's a fairly short audiobook, and it's just basically, I'm going to read kind of what it says, because it's, yeah. This is a 7-step program including practical and easy to follow advice and techniques. So they're wanting you to, so the book should be able to help you determine your worry profile and change your patterns of worrying, identify what's productive and unproductive worries, trying to eliminate that sense of urgency that makes you feel anxious, focusing on new opportunities and not fear of failure, embracing an uncertainty, which we could all do a bit of that, and stop the behaviours that you feel like makes things better but actually make things worse. So yeah, I'm quite interested to read this one. It's quite a short book. I'm sure it's only like 4 hours or something like that. But I'm really curious to give this one a listen. So something I suffer with quite badly is anxiety, and I find myself worrying about a lot of things a lot of the time, and it's all things that are valid to worry about. Well, not all of them. Some of them are not worth worrying about. But yeah, I'd be like very interested to see how I kind of fit into that kind of spectrum and what techniques he says to stop worrying. I've learned a few of these over the years from like counsellors or my own kind of research, reading other books, and I'm just curious to see what this one has to offer. So that's one I'll be listening to quite soon. So another audiobook that I've bought is one I've seen quite a lot on BookTube. This is Circe by Madeline Miller. And this is about the daughter of Helios, god of the sun, mightiest of the Titans. And she is banished to a deserted island where she kind of hones her craft. I think there's lots of like different figures from like mythology that I might have heard about before that are in this like Daedalus and Icarus and things like that. It kind of just brings back kind of memories of old Latin classes actually. So yeah, this one I think sounds quite interesting. I'm really into books that are kind of based on like mythology and things like that. I just find it really, really interesting, and I've heard some good things about this one, so I'm quite excited to get to this. So the other audiobook that I bought recently needs no introduction. It is one that has been read by every booktuber I watch, so that's for sure. But I have to kind of see what all the fuss is about. This is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and it's not the kind of book that I would normally pick up, but I've heard nothing but rave reviews. I have to know what the fuss is about with this book. So it's basically about a reclusive Hollywood movie star, Evelyn Hugo, can't say her name, Evelyn Hugo, and how she's telling her story to an unknown journalist, and which is obviously like the story of her career kind of thing. And yeah, she basically goes to her apartment and listens to all of the loves of her life, basically. Yeah, I don't really know a great deal more than that, despite the fact I've listened to wrap-ups about this book about 100 times. It's been a wee while, because I waited until it was on a deal before I bought it, of course. But yeah, everyone seemed to think this was pretty good, so I'm gonna weigh in on that and see if I like it. So I've heard nothing but good things, but we shall see if this lives up to my expectations, because admittedly I've got pretty high expectations on this one because it's just 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. When I'm looking at Goodreads, I'm literally on Goodreads right now and it's just 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. Yeah, so I'm kind of fascinated to see how that turns out. And then we go into the ebooks. So this is a mix of books that I've just bought myself on some daily deals, or books that I've gotten from NetGalley, from the publishers in return for an honest review. So this will be my first reviews for NetGalley books. So I've never done this before. I've applied for a few before, but only just started getting approved for them. The power of a YouTube channel, even one as tiny as mine. Yeah, so one of those books is The Stranger in My Bed by Karen King. And this book has got really an interesting premise, or at least I think it's interesting. As soon as I saw it, I was like, ooh, I have to read that. Basically, it's a husband and wife called Freya and Phil Keegan, and they have a really volatile marriage. There's loads of arguments, things get physical. It's not exactly all going very well for them. They've been married for 2 years, and basically it's been a very up and down kind of ride. And after a rather bad row where a vase was thrown and blood was spilt, very dramatically, Phil storms off into the night, gets into his car and has an accident. And he wakes up in hospital not having a clue what's happened for the last 2 years. The last thing he can remember is getting off the plane from their honeymoon, and he still thinks him and Freya are perfectly in love and have no problems. And so she goes to the hospital. She was pretty much set on leaving him. She was like, I can't deal with this anymore. And yeah, when she hears he's been in an accident, she's like, oh, can't leave him while he's in his hospital bed, kind of thing. And obviously when she finds out he can't remember anything from the last couple of years, she's like, oh, well, can I leave him for something he doesn't remember doing. Like, maybe they could start over and she can do things differently, or not, things won't go the way they did before because he can't remember, or yeah, it's an interesting one. So yeah, does she leave him? Will things inevitably repeat themselves, or will they get a fresh start? I think we could probably tell they're not going to get a fresh start. I don't think they'll get a fresh start. I think it'd be a very dull book if they did. I imagine things are going to descend into chaos. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. I think this could be an interesting read. Another book that I got from NetGalley. This is My Sister's Child by Alison James. I've never read anything by this author, or the last one for that matter, before. I don't even know if they've got books out or not. I haven't got a clue, and did no research prior to this video, clearly. So this book is basically about a missing baby. So the main character is called Paula, and her sister Lizzie had a secret pregnancy, and then the baby went missing, and then a few days later Lizzie was dead, and Paula swore she would find the missing baby. And this has been something she's been searching for. She's been searching for this baby for like 10 years. She's never found anything, no clues. And then, yeah, suddenly after all this time, she finds out that maybe this secret pregnancy wasn't so secret, and someone else might have actually known what's going on and might know where the baby is. So it sounds like a fairly kind of standard thriller type thing, but I want to know what happened to this baby. So I'm quite keen to read this one too. I really, I'm not much of a mood reader, but there's a lot of thrillers coming out because of the season. I think more thrillers are released at this time of year. So as much as I don't really pick my books based on the season, I think more just are out. And anyway, I'm enjoying my thrillers at the minute. So I'm excited to give this one a go. The next couple are also from NetGalley, and I feel like they've got the potential to be really good or kind of crap. Because I've read a few books along these kinds of lines, and some are great, some are not. So I'm more tentative about these two. I don't have as high expectations for these next two. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see how it goes, because they might impress me. The first is Dead Girl Walking by Roberta Gately. Oh dear. They'll be linked down below. Obviously these books aren't out yet, but I think they come out. I think The Stranger in My Bed, My Sister's Child, and Dead Girl Walking. I think it's Dead Girl Walking. They all come out, I think, at the end of November, I think. I'll have the publication dates down below as well. Yeah, Dead Girl Walking. This is about an ER nurse, and she has a patient come in and wants to find out what happened to her, and enrolls the help of her friend, a detective. One of her friends is a detective called Sam, and she gets him to help her try and find out what's happened to this patient. I'm not entirely sure why, as a nurse, she's doing this. I don't feel like this is like a normal thing. This is the bit I'm a bit dubious about, but we'll see. And anyway, so she starts looking into this, and then starts to get clues to think that she might be the next victim of who attacked this patient, and is trying to convince Sam that actually she might be in danger. So, like, can she get control of the situation, or is she basically Dead Girl Walking? Is kind of the concept. So, like I say, this one has the potential to be good, but also the potential to be less than good. I'm interested. I'm very interested, but I'm not sure how that's going to go. But we'll see. Similarly, the next one is Body Language by A.K Turner. And this one is a mortuary assistant. They're all kind of on the same vein, these ones. This is a mortuary assistant, and she's been in the biz, she's seen it all, and the next body on her slab is someone that she knows. It's a friend and a mentor, and so she quite understandably wants to find out what happened to her friend, and she thinks that there's more to it. I think it's maybe seen as an accidental death or something, and she's like, no, there's something more to this. And there's also like a bit in the blurb. There's a bit in the blurb which mentions potentially her ability to hear the last thoughts of the dead. I'm not entirely sure if that's she can actually hear the last thoughts of the dead, or if this is her picking it up during her post-mortem. I'm not sure exactly what they're getting at there, so it's either got a bit of a spook to it, or it's just the way they've worded that she finds out what happens to the dead, which we know from her job. So yeah, that's what this one's about. And again, I've read books kind of about mortuary assistants, pathologists, stuff like that before, and again, they have the potential to be really interesting if they're done well. I've unfortunately read a few that have not been done well, so we'll see how this goes. Again, I'm keen to give it a go. I'm really interested, but lower expectations with these ones. But keep an eye out for my wrap-ups, because especially the ones that are going to be published at the end of the month will be on my next TBR. I'm sticking on the NetGalley train. Coven by Lizzie Fry. There's a quote on the back of the book. Let me repeat myself so we can be very clear. Women are not the enemy. We must protect them from themselves just as we protect ourselves. So, that's a bit of a worrisome quote there, you know, kind of gives you a vibe of what the book's going to be kind of like. So, basically, this is a world where witchcraft is real, power is passed from mother to daughter. So, power is passed from mother to daughter, and the US president has just decided that we need to lock up witches, and just for their own safety, you know, not because they're bad or anything, but we need to lock them up to protect them from themselves. So basically it's a world where being female is one step away from being a criminal, and I feel like that's a really interesting concept. You kind of using witchcraft. Obviously this is kind of like an age-old thing. Women obviously have not always had the position in society that they have today, which is still in places not what it should be. Not the time for a feminist rant. But anyway, yeah, kind of using witchcraft to kind of a little bit like show this concept. Kind of, I'm interested. I think this could be good. I'm really excited to read this book. So once I heard about this one, I immediately tried to get my own copy, and obviously I now do, in exchange for a review, which will be up once I read it. I think this book's not coming out till January or February next year, so it'll probably be a little bit later on before I read it. But I'm really looking forward to it. So the last two are also NetGalley approvals. I clearly went on a bit of a binge and asked to get a hold of a lot of books on NetGalley. But I want to read the blurb for one of them, because I can't sum it up and tell you why I'm interested in the way that this blurb can. So let's look it up. This is Of Wicked Blood by Olivia Wildenstein? Author's names. Forever the issue. Okay. So the back here has a little paragraph from the two main characters. I think it's written from both their POVs. So the male lead character is called Slate, and his little blurb is, I didn't mean to steal the bloodstone from the de Morel's crypt. Scratch that. I did mean to steal it, until I realised it was a curse magnet that only comes off if I, along with a jolly trio, successfully defeat 4 curses. If any of us fail, I'm dead. I've never been a glass half empty sort of person, but my glass looks in dire need of a refill right now. The only highlight in this wicked treasure hunt, feisty entitled Cadence de Morel. That just made me laugh. And Cadence, her bit at the back is, I was raised on tales of magic in a small town reputed to be the birthplace of French witchcraft. Did I believe all the stories I heard? Absolutely not. I mean, if magic existed, my mom wouldn't have died and Papa wouldn't be stuck in a wheelchair. Right? Wrong. The night Slate Ardoin waltzes into my life wearing a ring he stole from my mother's grave. I call him a monster. But then I meet the real ones, and Slate, well, he becomes something else to me. Something frustrating to live with, but impossible to live without. And something I'll fight for, no matter the cost. And warning, profuse cursing, and not just the magical kind. Basically, the back of this book just gave me a giggle, and I had to read it. I like books with a bit of humour, and this just sounds like my kind of humour. So immediately I wanted to get a copy of this. So thankfully I was given an art copy, and I will be looking forward to making a review of this one when I get around to reading it, which will hopefully be quite soon. And the last one that I got from NetGalley, finally, I got a lot from NetGalley. I would never have a book haul this big without some gifted books, because I don't have that kind of money. I have a horse, if you've seen my other videos, so he eats all of my money, so I have to be a little bit cost-cutting and rather endeavourous, because, yeah, I basically work to improve his life. Expensive beastie, but I do love him. Getting back on track, the last book from NetGalley, I'll put another picture of it up here, is Our Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent. So this is an author that I've read a couple of books by before and always enjoyed. They're kind of on the darker side, really twisty. She's a compelling kind of author. I like her style. So when I saw that she had a book on NetGalley, I was like, I want to read it. I'm interested. If she wrote it, I'm interested. And the blurb is tiny. And I'm just going to read it. 3 brothers are at a funeral. One lies in the coffin. Will, Brian and Luke grow up competing for their mother's unequal love. As men, the competition continues for status, money, fame, women. They betray each other over and over until one of them is dead. But which brother killed him? Oh, that gives me chills. I'm clearly easily pleased, but yeah, I'm keen on reading that. And like I say, I'm confident that Liz Nugent will do a good one. So I'm very excited to give that a read. So the next few I bought most of them on as Kindle daily deals. They were kind of in the range of like a couple of quid. It's not even 99p. So I had a bit of a Kindle binge, getting a few titles that I'd had on my wish list for a while. And yeah, so we'll go through a few of those. So the first 4, I'm literally just going to put 4 of them on the screen here because they are all by the same author that needs no introduction on BookTube, Riley Sager. So we've got Home Before Dark, his most recent release, Final Girls, The Last Time I Lied, and Lock Every Door. Yes, I think that's right. So I've heard so much about Riley Sager from all the booktubers that I watch, and I want to know what the fuss is about. Rather like Miss Evelyn Hugo and her book, I want to know what all the fuss is about. I want to know why so many of the booktubers I watch want to read. I'm a big fan of thrillers. The blurbs sound really interesting. I'm probably going to read these fairly soonish. So watch this space. We'll see. Hopefully I don't end up hating them. But even if I did, I think I spent like a £5 on all 4. So it's not going to be a huge loss. But I'm really excited to give these a go because, like I say, I've heard about them pretty much every time. You know, he had a release out every year for the last couple of years, and all the YouTubers I watch read it. So I'm gonna give it a go. So the last couple of books I bought, we've got a couple of more fiction and then one more non-fiction that I got. So this one is The Recovery of Rose Gold, and this is by Stephanie Wrobel. Am I going to mispronounce every author's name in this video? Quite possibly. Anyway, so Rose Gold, cross my legs. Rose Gold was a victim of her mother's abuse. Her mother Patty had Munchausen's by proxy, which is kind of a condition where you make someone else ill for like the attention and benefits that it brings, I think. I don't know loads about it, but that's the vague gist. But I'm interested. So basically Patty went to prison for 5 years for the abuse that she put upon her daughter. She made her violently ill because of her Munchausen's by proxy, sorry. And so basically Rose has now healed sort of physically, but she's still mentally scarred from everything that her mother's put her through, but wants to reconcile. So her mother has been in prison and is now coming out, and mother and daughter are trying to repair their relationship. But I've heard this book is insane, and that these 2 people are very messed up for obvious reasons, and there's an undercurrent behind this reconciliation. And I think there's going to be a lot of mind games and a lot of... I don't know what this is. I'm doing a lot of this. So I'm very curious to see what this is going to be like. It could be my kind of thing. It could also go a bit far. There's been a couple of books that I've read where like the characters are more like the sick in the head kind of types, and it goes too far for my liking. So I'm not sure. This one could be borderline for me, but we're going to give it a go. But yeah, I'm intrigued. The next book is a recent release from one of my favourite authors. Again, this is Holly Bourne this time. I've reviewed at least one of her books on here so far. So I've read a couple of her books this year. I think I reviewed, oh dear, I can't remember the name of it. What book did I review? At My Normal Yet. There we go. Oh, I've read so many of her books recently. I think I read Are We All Lemmings and Snowflakes and How'd You Like Me Now, but I think they were pre this channel, so I don't think I've reviewed them on there yet. Yeah, I think it's Am I Normal Yet I've reviewed. I love her books. I think they're great. She is really funny and really relatable, and I just think her books are fab. So naturally she's got a new release and I want it. So I got it. So this one is, I've got the main character April, and April is in the world of dating. The world of dating. Oh dear. And basically isn't having that much success and can never get a guy to stick around after a couple of dates. And so she decides to become Gretel. And Gretel's a lot more fun than April. I need to read the description that she has of what she becomes like. Here we go. A regular, everyday, manic pixie dream girl next door with no problems. So, totally unrealistic. So, yeah, basically she decides to date as Gretel. And doing this, she reels in a guy called Joshua. And basically it looks at their relationship and how long can April keep up the pretense. How long can she keep being Gretel now that she actually found a guy she liked, but not as herself. This just sounds like it could be absolutely hilarious. If it goes by Holly Bourne's previous stuff, it will be absolutely laugh out loud funny. So, and I think we can all relate to crappy dating. Has anyone not done the crappy dating thing? I think we've all done it. Anywho, I'm excited to read that. That's going to have to be read fairly soon. And the last book that I'm going to talk about today is totally different. It's back in non-fiction again, and this one is called Stiff, The Curious Life of Human Cadavers, by Mary Roach. And I've heard a lot of good things about Mary Roach's non-fiction books, and she does a few different ones. I'm sure there's one to do with like space and sex, and why are those the ones I think I remember? I don't know. So this one is about cadavers and the them going through history. They've been used for a few thousand years in the development of medicine and training doctors and all these things. And I think it's just kind of like a look at how they've been used over the years, described as oddly compelling and often hilarious. That works for me. I'm good with that. I like some non-fiction with a bit of humour in there. I learn better when I'm having fun. Doesn't everyone learn better when they're having fun? I'm hoping that lives up to my expectations. I love learning new things, but I don't like the book material to be dry, because we don't need that. I don't need boring ways to learn. So I'm very curious to give that one a go. So those were all the books that I have bought recently or been given recently, and will hopefully be featuring in some more videos soon when I get around to reading them, and I will let you know how I get on. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will catch up with you again soon. Bye!